Hey guys, this is Josh here, the Gray Bearded Green Beret, on basic map reading and land navigation. Okay, so marginal information and map symbols. Let's take a look at this. What is marginal information? Well, just like anything, in order to use a map effectively, you have to first read the instructions. And on a map, the instructions are kind of placed in the margins of that map, and that's why it's called marginal data. It's the instructions for using this map. It contains a lot of different pertinent things that you need to be aware of beforehand so that you can use that map effectively. And not all maps have the same information. They don't have the same symbols. So whenever you get a map, it's important to read these instructions. Read that marginal information. I'm going to highlight some of the key points that are on both military and most civilian maps. Now, the first bit of information that we need to concern ourselves with is the map name or the sheet name. Most of the time, this is named after the most prominent feature that's contained on this map. It can often be a city, like in this case, it's Columbus, Georgia, or it could be a large geographic feature on certain maps. You know, whatever the most prominent thing is on that map is typically where they'll get the sheet name from. This is an example of a sheet name on a civilian map, Mount Marcy being the most prominent feature on this map. The next valuable piece of information that this marginal data gives us is the scale. In this case, it's a 1/50,000th map. This gives us the ratio of a unit of measure on the map as compared to that same unit of measurement on the ground. For example, on this one, a 1/50,000 scale map, a single unit of measurement of any unit of measurement is equal to 50,000 of that same unit of measurement on the ground. So, for example, 1 inch on this map is equal to 50,000 inches on the ground. Same goes for the other scales. A 1/25,000 translates to basically 1 inch on the map equals 25,000 inches on the ground. So what you'll notice is the smaller the scale ratio, like a 1 to 10,000 or 1 to 25,000, the greater the map detail. The larger the scale ratio, like a 1/50,000 or a 1/100,000 scale, the less detailed the map will be because you're cramming more information onto the same sheet of paper. Here's an example of the scale on a civilian map. This particular map is 1/25,000 scale, which means that this ratio, this is a smaller ratio, so this is a much more detailed map. 1 unit of measurement on the map is equal to 25,000 of those same units of measurement on the actual ground. You're going to find the next bit of information that's important is the date. You're going to find several dates on the map. They're basically going to show when the data on the map was surveyed. Like this particular one here tells us that the road data is from 1973 and all the other information is also from 1973. So that tells us that the information on this map is current as of 1973. That doesn't mean that this was printed in 1973. That just means that the information contained on this map is from 1973. A lot of times you can also find a date next to the declination information, which we'll get into a little bit later. That'll tell you when that data for the declination was actually recorded. That's something that changes over time, and that can be dependent on a lot of things. But one of the biggest factors in how much this changes and how often this changes is location. So this is information that you need to know. This is a great example on this map of the date that it was printed versus the date that the imagery was actually taken from. And if you read in the special notes section of this, it actually gives you a lot of valuable information on this civilian map. It was derived from imagery taken in 1976 and other sources. They photo inspected it using imagery taken in 1999. They saw no major culture or drainage changes. So the survey controlled current as of 1976 and the boundaries were verified in 2001. So that tells you everything you need to know about when this actual map information or how old this map information is. And like I said, that's useful if you find another map that you think may be more up to date. You can cross-reference those dates. Make sure you have the most up-to-date map available. The next bit of information that we're going to concern ourselves with is called the adjoining sheets diagram. And typically what this is your current map will be the center. There'll be 9 squares. Your current map sheet will be the center, and the 8 surrounding map sheets will tell you what the next map over in any direction would be. This is extremely valuable if you're operating in one area that bleeds over into another area. This tells you what other map you need before you take your trip, or what other map you need to cover your area of operations. Down here, just like on a military map, we have the adjoining sheets diagram that's got your map in the center, and then it lists all the maps that are surrounding, so that if you have to bleed over into another map to make sure that you're covered, you know which map you need to purchase. In this case, if I was actually moving further south than this map actually covers, I would need adjoining map number 7, which is Blue Ridge. Now, the next bit of extremely valuable information that we get from this marginal data is called the declination diagram. This declination diagram indicates the difference, the angular difference, the angular relationship between true north, grid north, and magnetic north. Right next to that, we have the declination diagram. Again, the declination diagram shows the difference between true north, which will either say TN or be represented by a star, grid north, and magnetic north. In this case, the magnetic declination is 15 degrees, and that is current as of 2001. So in this case, the difference between magnetic north and grid north is 0 degrees. So there's no conversion necessary, but that's not the case for very many places. So this will tell you the date that that was recorded, so you would want to go online while you can and reference this to find out what the most up-to-date declination is for your particular map and record it here. This particular map doesn't have it, but a lot of maps will give you the formula for converting from a grid to a magnetic angle or a magnetic to a grid angle, and that just makes it easy to reference when you're actually changing declination. We'll get more into detail on that when we talk about declination in a future video. Alright, next up we've got the bar scales, and bar scales are essentially rulers that are used to convert map distance to distance on the ground, and a lot of times they'll have different units of measurement. In this case there's kilometers, there's statute miles, and there's nautical miles. So this is a good thing to use when you're calculating distance, and that's something we'll get into in a future video as well. These are the bar scales. Then directly under that we have the contour interval note. This one says that the elevation is in meters and the contour interval is 10 meters between contour lines. Here's the contour interval note. It tells us that the contour interval is 10 meters between contour lines. It indicates the unit of measurement that's represented by the contour lines on the map. The contour lines on a map show both elevation and relief, so the contour interval tells you the vertical distance between those contour lines. This can be in meters or it could be in feet, so it's important that you familiarize yourself with what your map is actually depicting between those contour lines. And it's important to do that with every map you're using. As you might have suspected, there's going to be more to come on this when I do a video on elevation and relief. So that is the contour interval note. Next up we have the legend. The legend is the place on the map in the marginal information where you're going to find all the definitions for all the different topographic symbols that are used on this particular map. And here's the legend on this civilian map. Same thing, shows what topographic symbols are used on this particular map. They're not always standardized, so make sure you take the time to familiarize yourself with these on each map that you're using. Your map may contain special notes that are specific to that map, and they give you more information about what is being depicted or more information about that map. Like for example, this one says that this map is red light readable, which is good information to have if you're using a red filter to kind of reduce the light signature that you have if you're reading this at night. And like we looked at earlier with the dates, the special notes section gives us a lot more detail on the specifics of this particular map. Anyway, hope you liked the video. If you want to see more of them, make sure that you're subscribed. Make sure you click that notification bell so that you get notified when the next one's coming out. And I hope to continue this series until we get all the way through the gamut. Till next time, don't get lost. See you next time.